Let's get started now. The police hospital in Accra has mounted tents on its premises to accommodate the increasing number of patients using the facility. The hospital has seen a large influx of patients since members of the Ghana Medical Association withdrew OPD services last week. My colleague Matilda has been running checks at some hospitals in the national capital.
As today marks the last day for withdrawal of OPD services by the Ghana Medical Association, we are here today at the 37 Military Hospital, which remains the country's first port of call for emergency and national issues. Would want to find out from authorities how they are dealing with the issues that are likely to come up. We know tomorrow begins withdrawal of emergency cases, so we'll be speaking with authorities to find out from them how they are dealing with. We know over this period, 37 Military Hospital have been receiving a number of cases coming in from all public institutions due to the ongoing strike by the GMA. How are you dealing with the situation so far?
Oh, so far everything is under control. We are managing things very well. It's not overwhelming, and so, and we recently had this June 3rd disaster, which we equally managed very well. So far, there's no problem.
Okay. We know tomorrow begins withdrawal of emergency cases. Are there any measures in place this hospital is putting down to address anything that is likely to come up with it?
Yeah, so far we've recalled all our personnel who are on leave, and then those who have been granted passes to come back to work, to beef up the staff that is already on ground. So everything is under control.
Okay. So dealing with the situation, you are having an increasing number of referral cases and all that. How are you managing with the doctors? Because I'm sure they're already under stress with this situation already.
Yeah, they are under some stress, but it's manageable. It's not overwhelming. It's manageable. So I think we are okay for now. And I'm sure that very soon this impasse will be redressed and everything will get back to normal. Yes.
Don't you at some point feel alarmed that it will get to a breaking point where you won't be able to deal with the issues, looking at the posture of government and the GME as in resolving the issue?
As I said, this is a security institution, a military institution. They are prepared for anything, any eventuality. So we can equally manage anything that comes on at hand.
All right. So I've been speaking with Madam Christine Atepo, who is the PRO of the 37 Military Hospital, who has been explaining to us that the facility has all it takes to manage any emergencies that are likely to come up with the ongoing strike by the Ghana Medical Association. We would continue to other health facilities to find out how they are dealing with the situation.
And Matilda joins us in the studio. Welcome, Matilda. You've been to the 37 Military Hospital and the Police Hospital. Yes. Let's start with 37 and what you found.
Okay, so at 37 Hospital, you realize that at the OPDs and the emergency wards, a number of people have turned in there. And I've been speaking with some of the doctors who tell me that, yes, over this short period, within a week, that they've seen a huge number of people coming in, but it's not like they are unable to deal with the matter. They are praying and hoping that the issues will be resolved as soon as possible so that it doesn't get to a point where they won't be able to contain it. So I've been speaking with one of the doctors at the 37 Hospital who has been sharing her opinion about the ongoing strike.
So that's quite well. So far, I wouldn't say we've met with any big challenges dealing with them. Of course, because of the strike, the number of people we see here daily has increased. It has increased more than, but I think it's within our capacity now. We just hope that it doesn't go any much more than it is going now. So we just pray that the issues are resolved early so that we don't have to go into the uncharted lanes. Yes, we are not overwhelmed, at least. We are prepared for what, of course, when it happens like that, you have to anticipate the increases you might have so that you prepare for it. So I would say for now, yes. But we are just hoping that, as I was saying, these issues are resolved earlier, because if it continues, then we expect that the numbers will continue to increase, and then the overwhelming point might come, which we are not hoping for. So yes, the government and the GMA, we are really praying and hoping, because we don't want to be overwhelmed. At least we want to continue serving in the right capacity and not be under that stress. Our lives are also important, isn't it?
We understand that some workers who were on leave have been recalled.
Exactly. At the 37 hospital, doctors, nurses and health assistants who are on leave have been asked to stand by at the facility. Those on sick leave and all that who have also been asked to stand by. Those who are supposed to also go on leave, all these have been suspended in order to contain the emergencies that are coming up.
And the same thing is happening at the police hospital.
At the police hospital too is the same thing. But interestingly, at the police hospital, they have mounted tents. Tents at the facility to be able to contain the emergencies at the facility. But you know that the police hospital is a 100-bed capacity at the facility. They are saying that they are not praying to get to a point where their wards will be congested, where they won't be unable to deal with the emergencies that will come up. So because of that, they have erected 3 tents. The tents have not been filled yet, but they are praying that it doesn't get to that point. But if it should get to the emergency point where we are all hoping that it doesn't get there by tomorrow, they'll be moving patients, new patients will be coming in to the wards to these tents to be able to deal with them or take care of them. But I've also been speaking with some patients who are turned up at the facility. Interestingly, some patients are aware of the ongoing strike at the public facilities. That's how come they rush to 37 and then the police hospital. But then again, they tell me that so far, though they have to endure long queues and all that, but at the end of it all, they are being taken care of. It's not as if when they get there, the doctors are unable to take care.
So it's worth the wait.
It's worth the wait. So, so the patients there are already happy about the services that is being rendered to them, because unlike some other facilities where they would have to queue for so long and all that, they tell me that compared to other health facilities, what they are getting there is worth it.
Thank you, Matilda Omega, bringing us details from the 37 and police hospitals where she made some checks. We're staying with the doctors. The Ghana Medical Association has given government a 24-hour ultimatum to meet their demands for conditions of service for their members. The association withdrew services from government-run hospital OPDs last week. After a meeting in Cape Coast, the GMA issued a statement warning it might withdraw emergency services as well from tomorrow.
Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association will not comment on President's refusal to yield to the doctor's demand.
I respect myself as a person. I wouldn't want to go into a media banter with the President. I, as an employee, no law compels me to work for any employer. So if I think that the conditions under which I'm working is not the best for me, I am ready to quit and go do anything, including petty trading, because I believe that there's more dignity doing something that at least I have my peace of mind. They can go and do their political propaganda as they are doing. We are professionals. They don't go into the theaters with us. They don't go into the consulting rooms with us. They don't go into the OPDs or the emergency rooms with us. We have put what we think is fair to ask from the employer to the employer. It is up to the employer to decide whether to sit down with us and ensure that we come to some compromise positions on things, or he leaves it as it is, and we also think about ourselves.
Dr. Yankson, meanwhile, said government was yet to invite them for a resumption of negotiations after the talks broke down last week.
Well, officially, we haven't had any negotiations. We've had some other informal talks, or talks that I would say are not daily negotiations, but in a way could have a bearing on the negotiations. That has happened, but in terms of true negotiations, we are yet to have one.
Reacting to the supposed letter from the GMA stating the doctors' demand, Dr. Yankson challenged claims what the doctors are asking for are unrealistic.
We want to put on record that we dissociate ourselves from that so-called leaked document simply because we signed on to a document not to do that, and we haven't done that.
So are you saying that the content of that leaked document doesn't reflect?
I said I will not give credence to anything. That is why I put in the caveat that, assuming without admitting that was even the content. What is wrong with it? Go out there into the look, please. It is not. Please. It is not some who are saying. Go out there to the public institutions and find out what other officers are getting. Assuming we even ask for 100 gallons of fuel at the initial stage, as in the proposal, subject to whatever will be determined finally. What is wrong with it? We know the backgrounds of some ministers. Some were juniors in school. Go and see the conditions under which people are enjoying whatever they are doing for the state. Go and see how much fuel is giving them. And publish that bit as well. Why didn't the government side also publish the so-called ridiculous positions they presented in the beginning?
The GMA, according to its roadmap, is seeking to have all its members resign their positions at public health facilities by August 14, unless an agreement is reached. Matilda from Magan, for Joy News, Accra.
Meanwhile, the Chief Executive of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, George Smith Graham, has denied claims the government is yet to start negotiations with Ghana Medical Association on their demands. Speaking to AM show host Mamavi Owusu-Abuaje, Mr. Smith Graham explained that meetings with the doctors over the proposed conditions of service are already in effect.
Discussions are ongoing. I will not be prepared to disclose the last time we met and how we met and all that, no. But discussions are ongoing. In any case, when it comes to negotiations, formal and informal are part of it. If we realize that there's how do you call it, we are having an entrenched position at a point, and I will have to call the leadership, all of them, to an informal discussion for us to try to iron out a few issues before we go into the main meeting. It can be part of the negotiations.
Is that what you're doing now?
Formal negotiations are ongoing. Formal negotiations are ongoing. So it is true that we're supposed to have met today, but we met with them and agreed on a little adjustment because we are working on all this, and I'm sure when you came into my office you saw that it is this very thing that we are working on now. We are working on the figures, looking at everything, so that when we call for the meeting, we'll then be able to conclude the negotiation as early as possible. But there's no stalemate. Normally when there's a stalemate or a deadlock, the two parties agree that now we can't go any further, let's declare. In any case, we've signed what we call the rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement spells out clearly when there's a stalemate, what we are supposed to do. When there's a stalemate, we are supposed to go to the National Labour Commission. And when we go to the National Labour Commission will then determine the outcome. So there are processes that we are all supposed to go through, even when there's a stalemate.
So if President Mahama's words are anything to go by, there's every indication that the GMA strike will not end anytime soon. The president insists that any attempt to yield to the doctors' demands will throw Ghana into further economic crisis. That stance, he claims, would apply to all public sector workers.
Recently, government has been in discussions over conditions of service for medical officers. Even while that process was ongoing, the Ghana Medical Association has directed doctors to withdraw services to outpatients in all public facilities. We have been here before, and it all has a very familiar ring to it. In my last visit to Botswana, in my interaction with resident Ghanaian professionals, I commented on election year pressures and the temptation to yield to demands by professional groups for increased remuneration. In 2012, during the implementation of the single spine salary structure, you all remember, pressures from various groups led to award of interim premiums and other compensatory allowances whose net effect ballooned our remuneration and compensation wage bill from a little under 3 billion Ghana cedis to over 8 billion Ghana cedis. This consumed nearly 73% of total tax revenues in wages and compensation alone. The effect on the economy of that increase are still being felt up to this day, and we're managing gradually to turn the situation around. We've managed, without retrenching any public sector staff, to tame the impact of wages and compensation as a percentage of tax revenues from the high of 73% to 49% currently. Remember that the ECOWAS benchmark for achieving convergence criteria.
Central Regional Correspondent Richard Kojou has been running checks at some hospitals in Cape Coast and joins us on the telephone lines. Richard, good afternoon to you. What have you gathered from your checks so far?
Well, what I've gathered from my checks so far is that most of the OPDs in the public hospitals are becoming empty. All of them are turning their attention to the private facilities that are in the region. If you go to the University of Cape Coast, it is quasi private, and so a lot of the patients have gone there. If you go to DIS, it is also a private hospital, and most of the patients have moved their attention there. But if you go to the emergency wards at the Cape Coast Hospital, the doctors are there in their numbers, ably supported by the junior doctors and other paramedics, and they are welcoming cases there. And so that is the situation here in the central region.
So, Kojou, that's an indication that they are yet to withdraw emergencies, because as you reported, emergency cases are being attended to. But you've been interacting with some of the patients. Tell us what they've been telling you.
Well, most of them are disillusioned, especially the relatives that brought them to the various health facilities. They are frustrated because some of them would have to be put on some medical conditions and some treatment. But because of the strike by the doctors, they are unable to receive such treatment. And so they are there not knowing what to do. Some of them who cannot even afford some of the fees or some of the payments at the private health facilities are actually disillusioned, and they are frustrated. They do not know what to do.
Okay, so patients getting frustrated. Some others are resorting to private hospitals. But you heard Central Regional Correspondent Richard Kojou bringing us that update. Well, staying with strikes, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTA, has declared an indefinite strike over their book and research allowances. A statement from the group stated that the decision was taken at a meeting held on Wednesday at the University of Education, Winneba. I'll be bringing you more, and I get to speak to the president of UTAG right after this break. Welcome back to News Today on Joy News on Multi TV, and we have been talking about the doctor strike and the impact it's having. We know that at the 37 police hospitals, they're putting up tents to deal with the increasing numbers that are coming up. We went to the central region and we found out that frustrated patients are moving to private health facilities to get some care. We'll move on to other stories, and the Ashanti Regional Police has carried out a massive raid at notorious drug dens in the capital, Kumasi. The Specialized Drug and Law Enforcement Unit, however, says that a more lasting solution will be available for government to establish a drug rehabilitation center in the region. Until that is done, it is futile to try to evacuate drug addicts from areas like Alaba and Tinka Island. Mohammed Nuruddin has more.
This is a famous joint accommodating some drug addicts. Some of the addicts have been in the practice for years. Some have realized the danger of selling and using drugs, but their attempts to end the practice is fruitless.
I'm here, Island, because many problems, my head, I'm thinking many things. I have money sometimes, but I come to smoke cocaine. Yeah. Now the cocaine, if I take my mind is coming down, cooling. I'm not going to disturb. I'm not going to rob anybody. If I get the cocaine smoke, my mind is down.
This enclave has been a safe haven for addicts, but a threat to youth in the local communities.
I
have grandchildren. Because of the activities of the peddlers here, I take them to work now that they are on vacation. These drug peddlers have to be evacuated.
The news team chanced upon this statement on one of the walls, and it reads, "My sensible brothers, let us simply say no to drugs now." Perhaps one of the addicts wrote the warning. The Drug and Law Enforcement Unit of the police in the region have begun a weekly exercise to evacuate the drug addicts. The exercise, which began on Wednesday, led to the destruction of structures that aided the peddling of drugs. Some looked on, while others supported the police in the exercise.
We are sacking them, and we're going to demolish their structures that the landlords or ladies allowed them to be pitching here. In fact, I'm of the view that they are being permitted by the landlords and ladies of the area. How can you spend money building your houses like this to allow these people to come and make it so filthy? And you're watching.
But the police want a center established to rehabilitate and reform the addicts.
Though it's very difficult to get the pushers, we have arrested a lot and put them before court. But I think they are able to sell their products because buyers are readily available. So we're coming to sack these junkies. In fact, if we are to arrest these people, the government have to build a special place to keep them. You could see how they are looking, and they look like.
Until appropriate structures are put in place to deal with this need, the addicts may just continue their old ways.
Let's talk about another strike. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTA, has declared an indefinite strike over their book and research allowances. A statement from the group stated that the decision was taken at a meeting held on Wednesday at the University of Education, Winneba. President of UTA, Dr. Samuel Ofori-Bekoe, said government is yet to acknowledge the numerous letters they've written on their 2014-2015 book and research allowance, hence the strike. He further stated that they will not take part in any academic work until their demands are met. Joining us on the phone lines right now is Dr. Samuel Bekoe, National President of UTA. Thank you very much for joining us on the news. First, you just heard the president. He says that he's not going to yield to making any payments outside the budget. You think he's going to respond to this demand?
Well, I don't know how these are issues falling made by the president. Because this is the recurrent expenditure. It's some every year that we have. So if they didn't budget for it, as we said in the Ghanaian for us, maybe they are mother. As for us, work for that part and all saying that you owe us that money and you have to pay. In actual fact, we were caught the meeting by the Minister for Employment and Youth Relations with the Minister of Education. And they did acknowledge the fact that we owe us. But when we are going to pay, it's the problem we are having.
Doc, can you kindly reposition yourself? I'm sorry to butt in, but can you kindly get a better position, because there are lots of breaks in the line and we're unable to hear you. Can you do? Yes.
Is it okay now?
Yes, please carry on.
All right. So as I was saying, what the president said, I don't see how that one is related to our current issue. Because in our case, it's a recurrent expenditure. Something that every year they will have to pay. And they know that the academic year that has passed, the 2014-15 academic year, they have to pay the book and research allowance. In actual fact, they've met us and they have acknowledged the fact that they owe us and then they have to pay. And so this issue of not paying anything outside the budget does not really affect us.
So how much are you talking about in terms of the debts owed you?
Well, it's a uniform thing. We have two different types of allowances. We have the book allowance, which is 500 Ghana cedis for the whole year. It's paid once in a year. And then, sorry, that's the book allowance is $1,500.
Okay.
And then we have the research allowance, which is 500 Ghana cedis for the year.
So why declare strike now? What you've just mentioned that you had meetings with the government and they acknowledged that they owed you these monies.
Yeah, the acknowledgement is not enough because we pre-finance our activities for the work that we did the last academic year. And we're expecting that for the work that we've done, they will pay us so that we'll be able to pre-finance the incoming academic year. But they have not paid us, so we don't have any money to go and pre-finance the incoming activity. That's why we stopped them, because from Saturday, the universities will start reopening, and we've not had anything concrete from them. That I said,
so there have been no promises.
They knew that they will have to pay us, and they kept on dragging their feet.
Give us an idea what will happen on Saturday or thereafter when the universities open.
Well, for us, we are not in management, so we cannot say exactly what is going to happen. But if management goes ahead and we're reopening the university, the students will come and nobody's going to teach them.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Dr. Samuel Bekoe. He is the president, national president of UTAG. Welcome to the business segment on News Today. President John Mahama has called on Cal Conserveria, producers of genuine promo tomato paste, to help revamp the defunct Polugu tomato factory to boost local production of tomato paste. According to him, this has become necessary because the country spends as much as $1.5 billion to import tomato and other foodstuff which could be produced locally. President Mahama was speaking during the inauguration of Cal Conserveria's $50 million tomato processing plant at Bong.
Wish you well in your investment, and to continue to say that Ghana is the gateway to West Africa. We have all it takes for a congenial investment in this country and to use this country as a platform to reach the rest of the West African sub-region. Ghana is a model of democracy. It is a country that has absolute peace and stability, and it's a country that has the incentives both for private domestic investors and also for foreign investors to be able to invest their money profitably, be able to repatriate their profits or to utilize their profits for whatever else they want to do. As we continue to transform the Ghanaian economy, we can only do this in partnership with the private sector. Government on its own cannot raise all the financing that is necessary for the investments that this country needs. And so the private sector definitely is our partner. And so I want to thank you once again for the invitation to commission this factory. And I wish on this note to formally declare the new tomato paste processing facility of Conserveria Africana Limited, Conserveria Africana Limited, duly inaugurated. I thank you, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana.
The World Bank has agreed to support government's budgets with over $600 million US. The World Bank believes the move will help strengthen Ghana's credit ratings.
$150 million of the funds from the World Bank will support the 2015 budget. It comes with a policy-based guarantee of $400 million to cover securities issuance of up to $1 billion by government. $45 million of the fund will also support the second phase of the reform programs government is embarking on to enhance fiscal discipline, strategic allocation of resources and efficient service delivery in the public sector. The transport sector project will also receive additional funding of $25 million from the World Bank.
We are supporting Ghana because Ghana is entitled to that kind of support from the World Bank Group. But more specifically on the instruments that have been chosen, as the Minister has said, what we have been looking at here is a mechanism to enhance the creditworthiness of Ghana that will enable Ghana to approach capital markets and benefit from the guarantee instruments in the form of much lower, we hope, interest rates.
Finance Minister Setekwe, appreciative of the gesture, explains donor partners are no longer holding back their funds.
The donor flows that dried up have started flowing, including the World Bank budget support, which is part of, what the agreements that we signed today. So if there is any doubt to the skeptics, I think this signing ceremony should show that the DP donor support that we have been talking about, as well as other flows, which we have said the second tranche, once the IMF board approves the first review staff reports, as well as the cocoa and other flows, are real flows to the economy, and the speculation that is ongoing, and also the unfortunate talking down of the economy, I would hope would will change.
The German government is meanwhile to also support Ghana with a multi-donor budget support of 17.31 million euros and an outgrower and value chain fund of 23 million euros, primarily to support local farmers.
A High Court is hearing a suit filed against the Agricultural Development Bank regarding the sale of their shares, and Abigail Adomako entry is at court. Abigail, she joins us on the line. Abigail, what's the latest from the court?
Right, the Labour Court has just refused the application of the union to halt the IPO process by ADB management, and they are saying that if the union goes ahead to halt this process, the implications on the bank would be far greater than what the union would suffer. And we are talking about revenues that would be lost here and the overall operations of the bank. And also the court is saying that the 5% of the shares that the union or the staff of ADB is asking for is too much and cannot be granted. And based on these issues, they have just refused the application of the union to go ahead and halt the process. And the lawyers are speaking to tell me that this means the ADB can go ahead to list on the stock exchange and can go ahead with the IPO process.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much, Abigail. Rather, it's Francisca you're speaking to, but that's Abigail Adomako entry, bringing us the latest from court. That's it for business. Welcome back. It's still news today on Joy News on Multi TV. A visually impaired graduate of the Cape Coast University is accusing the headmistress of Wesley Grammar Senior High School here in Accra of rejecting his national service posting there. He attributes this to his disability. Joshua Addy says a colleague with no physical or mental impairment was also posted to Wesley Grammar was accepted. Kwete Nati has been investigating this issue and joins us on the phone with more. Kwete, has James Addy petitioned anyone on the concerns he has raised?
Kemini, when I spoke to Addy this morning, he told me he had called the executive director of the National Service Scheme, Dr. Mr. White, to express his grievances. In fact, he told me he would be petitioning the Secretariat today, this afternoon, because he describes the action of the headmistress as discriminatory. And he believes, he believes that he could teach in other areas. So the excuse that the school is overstaffed doesn't wash for him.
Kwete, we also know that you've been speaking to the school authorities, in particular the headmistress. What have they been saying?
When I went to the school, I met the assistant headmaster, Charles Bedu. He told me that the school did not reject Andy's posting because of his disability. In fact, what he told me was the school really did not need his service, which was to teach CRS. They were looking at other areas like physics, lab technician, and this wasn't, CRS wasn't the area they requested. So they couldn't accept his posting. And for the area where Addy could teach, they have a school chaplain who is doing that job perfectly. So they cannot
accept him. Very well. Thank you very much. And that's Joy News' investigative reporter, Kwete Nati. Coming up. And that's how we draw the curtains here on News Today with me, Francisca Kakrafos. And for more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Thanks so much for your company.